It was another scorching afternoon on the edge of the city. The sound of tools clinking against metal echoed from a small roadside garage, where Daniel wiped the sweat from his brow and looked at the broken-down engine in front of him. His shirt was soaked with grease and heat, but quitting was never an option, not when his 7-year-old twin daughters were waiting at home for dinner. The Mustang rolled in like a red flash of luxury among rusted cars and dusty roads. Daniel didn't look up at first. He was too used to people with fancy cars speeding past his humble shop without a glance. But this one stopped. When the door opened, he saw a woman in heels, her hair pulled back, her sunglasses reflecting his tired face. "Excuse me," she said, her voice calm but urgent. "My car just stopped. Can you help me?" Daniel nodded without hesitation. "I'll take a look," he said, setting down his wrench. He popped the hood open, and steam hissed out like anger leaving a body. He coughed, waved the heat away, and got to work. The woman watched him quietly. There was something in the way he worked, a kind of patience and respect that most mechanics didn't show. She could tell he wasn't just fixing a car, he was fighting for something. "My name's Claire," she said after a while. "You good at this?" Daniel chuckled softly. "Been fixing engines since I was 15. My dad used to say every machine has a soul, you just have to listen." "Your dad sounds wise," she said. "He was," Daniel replied, his voice dropping. "Passed away last year. Since then, it's just me and my girls." Claire nodded, her expression softening. "That's a lot of responsibility." "Yeah," Daniel sighed. "But they are my reason for everything. Even when I'm tired, I remember they are waiting at home." The car started with a rumble. Daniel smiled, proud of his work. "There," he said. "Good as new." Claire took off her sunglasses, revealing bright, intelligent eyes. "How much do I owe you?" He hesitated. "Honestly? You don't owe me anything. You were stuck out here. Just glad I could help." Claire smiled for the first time. "You're an honest man, Daniel." He shrugged. "Trying to be. World doesn't make it easy." She reached into her purse anyway and handed him a card. "At least let me give you this. I run a company downtown. If you ever need something, call me." He looked at the simple card, "See, Reynolds Enterprises." It meant nothing to him, but he nodded politely. "Thank you." That night, Daniel came home late. His daughters, Lily and Sophie, were asleep on the couch with their homework books scattered around. He smiled, kissed their foreheads, and quietly placed the little food he could afford on the table. Days turned into weeks. The memory of the woman with the Mustang faded, until one morning, a black car stopped outside his garage. A man in a suit stepped out and asked, "You Daniel Carter?" Daniel froze, wiping his hands on a rag. "Yeah." "Who's asking?" The man handed him an envelope. "Ms. Reynolds requested your presence. She said it's about an opportunity." Daniel frowned. "Opportunity?" "She didn't say more," the man replied, before walking back to the car. Daniel opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, neat handwriting, with a short message. "You once helped me when I needed it most. Now, I want to return the favor. Come to Reynolds Tower, 10 a.m. He looked at his daughters, then at the old clock on the wall. For the first time in years, he decided to take a chance. When he entered Reynolds Tower, he felt out of place. Polished floors, glass walls, and people in designer suits. He was just a mechanic, with oil-stained boots and a faded jacket. Then the elevator opened, and Claire stepped out, no longer in casual clothes, but in a tailored suit that screamed power. Everyone in the lobby bowed slightly as she passed. Daniel's eyes widened. You Ms. Reynolds." She smiled softly. "Yes. And I remember you, Daniel." He blinked, still processing. "You own this?" "I built it," she said simply. "And I meant what I wrote in that letter." She led him into her office, the skyline glittering behind her desk. "You fixed my car without asking for payment. You reminded me that integrity still exists. I need people like you." Daniel swallowed hard. "People like me?" Yes, she said. Hardworking. Honest. Loyal. I want you to manage a new automotive division we're launching. It's for people who can't afford repairs, but still deserve them. He stared at her, speechless. I'm just a mechanic. You're more than that, Claire replied. You're a father. A dreamer. And the world needs more of that. Tears welled up in his eyes. I don't know what to say. Say yes, she said with a warm smile. That night, Daniel took his daughters out for ice cream, something he hadn't done in years. He told them, remember, girls, kindness always comes back. From that day on, Daniel became more than just a mechanic. He became the face of a movement, proof that doing good, even when no one's watching, could change a life forever. And Claire? She visited often, not as a boss, but as a friend. Sometimes, she'd bring new cars for Daniel to test, other times, she'd simply sit with his daughters, laughing and sharing stories about when she too had nothing. They never spoke of wealth or power again. Only gratitude, trust, and the quiet bond that had started with a broken Mustang on a dusty road. Because sometimes, the richest hearts are found in the poorest places, and the smallest act of kindness can unlock an entire empire. Weeks passed, and Daniel's new life began to take shape. He had his own office now, small, but with his name on the door, Daniel Carter, Director, Community Auto Care Program. Every morning, he arrived early, still in his mechanic's jacket. He refused to wear suits. They remind me too much of people who never got their hands dirty, he told Claire once, and she laughed, admiring his authenticity. The garage under his new management looked different too. Instead of luxury vehicles, it was filled with cars belonging to nurses, teachers, and delivery drivers. Daniel's team fixed them for free or at minimal cost, funded entirely by Reynolds Enterprises. People started calling it the Honest Garage. Claire often dropped by unannounced. Sometimes she'd bring coffee, other times she'd quietly watch him from a distance. There was admiration in her eyes, not romantic at first, but deep respect. You've changed this place, she told him one evening. You've given it soul. Daniel smiled modestly. I just did what anyone should do if they get a second chance. But beneath the calm surface, both of them carried invisible wounds. Claire had built her empire after losing everything, her father's company, her fiancé, and her friends who betrayed her for money. Daniel could see that pain in her when she thought no one was looking. One night, after a long day, she confessed it. I used to think money was power, she said quietly, leaning against her car. Now I know, it's useless without people who believe in you. Daniel looked at her thoughtfully. You're learning what my dad used to say, you can't buy trust. You earn it, one honest act at a time. They stood in silence under the glow of streetlights. For a brief moment, the city noise faded, and it was just two people, a billionaire and a mechanic, sharing the same truth. Later that week, Claire invited Daniel and his daughters to a charity gala. He felt out of place among the suits and diamonds, but when Claire took the microphone, her speech silenced the crowd. The most powerful person I know isn't rich. He's a single father who fixed my car and reminded me what humanity looks like. The applause was thunderous. Daniel's daughters clapped proudly, their eyes shining with tears. It was the first time in years Daniel didn't feel invisible. And as Claire looked across the room, locking eyes with him, she knew, that day on the roadside wasn't an accident. It was destiny disguised as a broken Mustang.